All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this 2:30 webinar. I'm guessing most folks here have some sort of interest in solar for their business or nonprofit, so that's what we're here to talk about. I'm Eric Burton. I work at Mountain BizWorks. I run our Electrify Fund, which is a lending program for solar energy projects or clean energy or energy efficiency projects for businesses and nonprofits in Western North Carolina. So I've met a few of you before. Nice to see a few new faces here as well. But we've been getting a lot of questions from folks around incentives and timing for when you need to complete a solar project to get those federal incentives. I think a lot of folks are aware that the situation has changed a fair amount in the last 6 months, and there's different policies for different types of projects. So thought it would make sense just to have this webinar. Scott Zentz from Sugar Hollow Solar has been kind enough to join us. He's their commercial solar specialist. So if anybody's going to have the answers for your questions and be able to explain all this, it'll be him. So really appreciate you joining us, Scott. Um, I'll talk a little bit about the Electrify Fund later, but why don't I go ahead and turn it over to you to kind of give us the lay of the land and help folks understand how to navigate this process and what that looks like.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it, and thanks for putting this call together. This is information that we're communicating out to people on a daily basis at Sugar Hollow. My name is Scott Zintz. I'm the director of sales, handle the commercial side and residential side at Sugar Hollow Solar. We're a company that's been in the Western Carolina market for about 15 years. We are the largest player by far in the Western Carolina market, both on the residential and commercial side. So we've been having a lot of these conversations with people. So thank you to Eric and for Mount BizWorks for putting this call together. But there have been a lot of changes going on in the grander scheme of the solar world with this new administration, and just kind of a continuation of things that were going to happen a few years back that were continued by the Inflation Reduction Act under President Biden, and then were quickly ended by the Trump administration. So to give just a brief overview of what's happening in the market right now, this I won't call it what they call it, but the OBBB bill that the Trump administration put out has dramatically changed the solar industry with the way that tax incentives and tax credits are going to be able to be received in a project. There's a lot of different subsets within that. So I'll talk about two of them, and then two of them probably don't apply to anybody here on this call. So I'll just kind of very briefly go over that part. Number one, on the residential side, anybody looking to do solar battery storage on your home, the tax credits that apply to residential solar, they expire at the end of 2025. They go away completely. There's no continuation. And that was a bit of a shock with this bill that was passed. We were not expecting that. We were expecting kind of a gradual slope where over maybe 1 or 2 years those tax credits would go away. Instead, they made the decision to dramatically end them this year. So all projects that were sold really for us almost 3 or 4 months ago filled up our pipeline for installations in 2025. And now what we're doing as a company on the residential side is really looking more at how can we discount solar to make it affordable for people, and then also bring out other projects and other types of opportunities to go solar on the residential side. So that's a quick and version of that one. Then we have what we call small scale commercial, which is defined as 1 kilowatt up to about 1.5 megawatts. I don't think anybody here is going to be looking at something larger than 1.5 megawatts. That's the majority of what we're going to talk about here on the call today. There's a subset within that in this bill of how tax incentives can be continued and can still be achieved up until the end of 2029. That's what we're going to focus on. For projects between 1.5 megawatts and 5 megawatts, there's a whole different subset of rules. And then anything 5 megawatts and larger, they pretty much have killed that industry and taken away any real way to achieve solar tax credits on those larger projects unless they are already under construction. So what that means, we're going to talk about that, kind of 0 to 1.5 megawatt on the tax credit side. The credits that are available right now in 2025, the standard tax credit for a for-profit organization is a 30%. They call it the ITC, or the investment tax credit. So any for-profit business can achieve 30% just in general for going solar as a tax credit. Then they can get an additional 10% if we, as the solar installer, utilize domestic content that's produced in the United States, utilizing sourcing that's US based and as the highest percentage. So most of our projects right now that we're installing this year and into next year will achieve that 40% since we are utilizing domestic content. That applies for both for-profit as an IRS tax credit, but also for nonprofit entities looking to go solar. You can achieve that same 40%. The only difference, since you don't have a tax basis, is it's called a direct pay incentive. So if you're a nonprofit entity and you're looking to go solar this year into the next couple of years, we can help you still achieve this year's 40% tax incentive. There's an additional 10% if you're in what we call an energy community. An energy community is an old brownfield where they used to have a coal-fired plant, things like that. There's a small subset around Fletcher. There's some areas in Rutherford County, but outside of that, there's not a lot of that market here in the Western Carolina area. So we don't talk about that one very often. And then the final portion is what we call accelerated depreciation. So with accounting terms with depreciation, anytime you install solar, you can depreciate that entire asset as a bonus depreciation, the full value of that asset in 1 year with the new tax incentives. So what we look at is between the 40% tax credits and depreciation, a lot of people can achieve 60, 65% of the cost of the solar project as tax incentives really in year one. So there's a very large advantage there to go solar. So with all that being said, this is why these tax credits going away is a really big deal for our industry, but also for anybody who wants to look at going solar in the future. What this bill did is effectively change the way tax credits are going to be looked at starting January 1st. There's a couple of terms that I'll throw out here. We're going to open up to Q&A, of course. If you have questions about that, want further clarification, I'm happy to do that. The first thing that's going to change starting January 1st is that any solar project will be subject to something called FEOC, or the Foreign Entities of Control. What that means is that all of the components, the solar panels, the inverters, the racking material, everything we utilize to install solar cannot be coming from a foreign entity that's on their bad list, which is, China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Since a lot of or most of the solar components have some basis within China, we have to be very careful with what product we're procuring to install and where that product is sourced from. So starting January 1st, if a project has material that is not passing the FEOC compliance test, they will not be available for tax credits or incentives of any kind. So that's the first reason that safe harboring today's tax law is really important. The second component is what we call domestic content. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier. If you're looking to incorporate domestic content into a project right now, instead of 30% tax credit, you'll get 40%. That's wonderful to achieve, but there is a percentage of the material that has to be domestic or qualify under the domestic category in order to achieve that 10%. Right now, within any projects we install in 2025 or with 2025 tax basis, we have to hit a 45% number that is utilizing domestic content. Starting January 1st, that number goes from 45% to 50%. And what we're seeing in the industry right now, there is not a lot of ways with all the materials that's available that we can be both FEOC compliant and hit that 50% domestic content number starting January 1st. So with all that being said, they're making it extremely difficult with this new bill under this current administration to gain these tax incentives and these tax credits if you go solar starting January 1st and then moving into the future. That's the goal of the administration. We can all talk about why. It doesn't really matter to this conversation, but that's what we're trying to avoid. So one way that we've uncovered, and this is not just us at Sugar Hollow, this is the entire solar industry. We at Sugar Hollow are members of a group called Amicus, which is a cooperative of solar companies. I think there's about 90 solar companies nationwide that are members of Amicus. And being a participant there, we gain a lot of information, a lot of knowledge sharing with all of these other solar entities across the country. So we're not just working at Sugar Hollow, we're working within Amicus to understand how to best serve anybody looking to go solar. So with all that, the best way right now that we see for people to go solar is if you're looking at a solar project, we need to do what we call safe harboring that solar project between now and the end of 2025. And if we do that, we can guarantee that you will achieve the tax credits as they sit today with the way the reading is today in 2025. And you would not be subject to things like fiat compliance or the higher domestic content. So there's a lot of information there. We'll get into a little bit more clarification in a minute. The way that we safe harbor a project, and these are IRS guidelines, it's not just a solar industry thing. This is IRS and accounting principles across the nation. You can safe harbor a solar project by putting down a 5% deposit in 2025. And that means if you make that 5% deposit, it allows Sugar Hollow to purchase material towards your project. And then what we can do is install that anytime between January 1st and the end of 2029 and still utilize today's tax law, which means no fiat compliance, which means 45% domestic content rules. So we can guarantee you all of those tax incentives if you sign up and you safe harbor a project this year, even if you don't want to install it for a year or two down the road. So that's what this call is about. That's what we're trying to advertise. We've been marketing that as Sugar Hollow. All of our energy consultants are communicating that out to our clients, to our prospects on a daily basis. That if you're looking to go solar between now and 2030, the best way to do that is to safe harbor your project now. Now, that 5% deposit does not just go to Sugar Hollow. We are required by that accounting law to purchase material towards your project with that 5%. So it doesn't sit in our bank. We take that, we purchase material, whether it be panels, solar panels, inverters, optimizers, racking material, whatever might make sense for your project. And then we are required to inventory and store that product for whenever you want to install the solar on your roof. So that's what we're looking at here. That's the very high level of what we're looking at. These tax incentives are going away starting January 1st. It's going to be very difficult to achieve any tax incentive on a commercial solar project from 0 to like 1.5 megawatt in size. Now, the good news is here, we do have some time. We have availability within Sugar Hollow. We don't have to guarantee, all the different site visits, all the interconnection permitting. That does not have to be done this year. All we need is that deposit that we can allocate towards material, which is what they call in IRS terms, the starting of construction on a project of this size. Once we do that, we can then take a breath, talk with you, talk with whoever is involved in the project, and kind of walk through when do you want to install, what's the right way. Let's come out there and do a full site visit. Let's make sure we understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish. So the one other thing that I'll put in there, 5% is the required number. Depending on a conversation we have with you all, we might say it might make sense to do 7%, just in case we get out there and you decide to install more solar, or maybe you want to add a battery, anything like that. That allows us to safe harbor a full project, even if there's a little bit of a cost difference between what we think from day one and what we install, next year or the years in the future. That's a lot of information in a short period of time. The other element here that Mountain BizWorks brings to the table, you don't have to put that 5 to 7% up as a cash deposit. Mountain BizWorks has a product available for an interest-only loan that Eric can kind of talk through here now, that can help you achieve that safe harbor, gives us what we need as the solar installer to safe harbor that project, guarantee the tax incentives without you having to make a cash outlay as a business or nonprofit entity. So Eric, you want to talk a bit more about what that product looks like, how people apply, what the interest rates are, different things like that within the Mountain BizWorks world?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, we've talked with several solar partners in the region, and lots of folks are pursuing this safe harbor strategy. So we want to support small businesses in Western North Carolina. So we came up with kind of a specific loan product for this, where if that 5 to 7% kind of down payment for the project is going to be hard to come up with in the next couple months, we can do a really short-term loan for that amount. And then basically be a 1 year loan. You'd make interest-only payments on that amount. 7.5% is the interest rate. And then, if you decide to move forward and build your project, and then next year we could move into a full financing, or you can find your own cash at that point, or you can just pay off that loan. But we just wanted to provide this to give folks a little bit of flexibility in the next couple months if they're looking at safe harboring but don't have the cash on hand. So if that's of interest, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk through it with you. Um, can usually get a decision on those in probably a week, so we can get those turned around pretty quick if we need to. So just in case that's helpful, keep that in the back of your mind. And then of course we also offer financing for full solar projects as well. When you move closer to construction, we can finance the full cost of the system over a longer term. So happy to chat through that as well, but just wanted to make those two options known to you all. And I think now let's probably open it up for questions, Scott. That's a lot of material. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to come off mute. Let me know if you can't. I'll be happy to unmute you and see what questions you have.
Hey there, I just had a quick question regarding the deposit. Let's say we go ahead, put it down between the 5 and the 7%, and we decide in a year, oh, you know what, this isn't going to work or whatnot. Do we get that back? Is that refundable?
Yeah, it's a great question, Miriam. So here's the official answer. The official answer is that per IRS guidelines, we are not allowed to make that contract refundable. If it shows that it's refundable, it does not qualify as a truly safe harbored project. However, as Sugar Hollow, we're a partner in this area, we're a partner in this industry. We're going to do everything we can that if we purchase material towards your installation and you decide to change your mind, we're going to try to see, can we utilize that product in a different way? Is there, if we purchase panels or an inverter, that's stuff we use in everyday projects. So we're going to try to allocate that to a different project so we can refund as much of or all of that money you put forward. So there's a difference between the reality of what we would do at Sugar Hollow and what we're able to do contractually. But that's the true answer to that question.
Got it. So then it just becomes like a good faith relationship there.
Yeah, or yes, I guess that would be a good way to say it. That we can work with you on different documentation. There might be an agreement that we put in place with the safe harbor and then a separate agreement that we work out between you and Sugar Hollow.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of other people, some of the questions that we get often are, how do we know what 5% is? Just so you're aware from our side, once you say, hey, I might be interested in this, all we need is either a copy of like a Duke authorization form to get some of your utility information or copies of a couple electric bills. Once we have that, we have a pretty good understanding of what size system you would need. We can put together a proposal for people within a couple of days, a week at the most. So once we have some information and have some basic understanding that you're interested in this, we'll put together a proposal. We'll show you what it looks like. That proposal will include what's the savings you're going to see over time? How do those incentives play in? What's the payback period, your return on investment? What's your new electric bill after going solar? So we're not just going to say, take a shot in the dark. we're going to get you a very firm proposal that shows you all the benefits of solar, all of the financial implications, the environmental implications, where we'd put the panels on your roof. We'd look at all of those different elements with you before we put in place a safe harbor agreement. So just wanted to make sure people are clear on that. We're not just going to say, give us 5% of a basic number. We're going to show you where that number comes from, walk through a proposal, and make sure that solar even makes sense for you and at your facility, based on your utility rate, based on any shade, based on your roof structure, all those things before we get into a safe harbor agreement.
I'm getting quotes from several different companies, including I have Christian from Sugar Hollow coming
Sure.
this week, I think.
Great.
And I'm assuming that whatever you guys are selling us utilizes domestic content as
That's
appropriate
right.
for the extra 10%. How do I, if I'm looking at other companies, how do I make sure that what they're selling me would qualify for that as well?
Yeah, so what you can ask for is just a statement of materials for that proposal. We put what materials we utilize on all of our proposals. What solar panel are we going to use? What inverter are we going to use? What's the racking material that we're going to use? And we can, if you ask for it, we can provide for you all of their domestic content documentation. You can probably do a Google search and find out that certain solar companies, QCell, Mission, REC, those are the biggest three on the panel side that are domestic content. On the racking side, Iron Ridge, Unirac, they're all using USA's made steel. On the inverter side, you're looking for Solar Edge, really, is the main one on a commercial installation. Other types of inverters and panels, I would probably highly question. Those are the main names that you're looking for. But again, if you, and Christian will walk you through this as well, but once you get a proposal from another company, if you have any questions on it, we're happy to look at it. That, we're a partner to Western North Carolina. If somebody has a better overall deal, then we'll say, great, work with somebody else. But we understand our value. We understand our place in this market. We're happy to help you evaluate another proposal as well. So if you see something and they don't give you the materials, specifically ask for it. If they don't have a safe harbor agreement, like a contract language, then you might be talking to the wrong kind of company. We have all that stuff. We can supply it. We can bring it forward to you at any point in time and document how we know we can get domestic content. We can provide references of people that we've helped get domestic content and get that extra 10%. Those are the things that I would ask for.
Gotcha. And so is it, do each component have a percentage to it, or is it like 100% domestic or 100% foreign?
Yeah, it's an interesting calculation. And it's not an exact calculation, but it's one that's posted industry wide. So the three main components are the inverter, the racking material, and the solar panel. Most projects, when we hit the 45% number that's qualifies this year, we can do that with just using the inverter and the racking material as being domestic content certified. As we go into next year, racking and inverter alone are not going to qualify. So now we have to bring in a solar panel that has additional domestic content. And that's really difficult to get. And from what we're hearing in the industry, if you're not part of, groups like Amicus that we're a part of, you may not have availability to those solar panels that help hit 50% domestic content. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry. It's really fast moving with what's going on right now, but we're involved in all those conversations with our attorneys, with our group, with all of our vendors, our manufacturers, to make sure that we have a supply chain that can hit all those different numbers as we move forward.
I have another question, just out of kind of
Yeah, go ahead.
curiosity. So,
Go ahead.
what is the industry trend looking like? I mean, where are we entering into the market now at this point? Because, you hear about, the solar, utilizing the amount of power from the sun was in the 20s, and they're talking about expanding it into the 30s. Just in a very kind of theoretical, how is it growing? How is the utilization of these solar panels of the potential energy draw? How's that working? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'll answer it in a couple of different ways. When we get into the efficiency of the product and the overall production per, square meter on a product, we're kind of plateaued right now. There's been so much advancement on the solar panel and the inverter technology that we plateaued. We're at a very, very good number right now for how much of the sun hits that panel, it turns into electricity, per versus the cost of that material. The problem is anytime there's innovation, you come up with a new product and it's more expensive and it doesn't give the payback in production numbers to lower your electricity bill. So right now we've hit a kind of a sweet spot in the solar industry for the last 2 years. Most of the investment in the solar industry is going towards battery storage. That is a place which was really expensive for the storage. It's coming down now because a lot of investment, a lot of technology advancements are happening in the storage side. So on one side of answering that question, we're kind of in that premium place right now. I don't see any huge advancements happening in the next 2 to 3 years that will make solar far more compelling of a story, whether it be cost or production. They're going to stay pretty close to where we are today. On the other side of that question, the overall what we see happening in the industry with these tax credits going away, we have a small window here to safe harbor projects. We're going to safe harbor as much as we can to get those 40% tax incentives. People are going to miss that boat. People aren't looking into solar right now. They're going to go into the next year. So what happens to those people is that we feel the industry as a whole is going to start to drop pricing. The vendors and manufacturers are going to have to lower the price to continue on the solar industry in the way that it's been growing. But we're seeing that might be 10-15% at the most by the end of next year, not 30 and 40%. So people who give up on the tax incentives, there might be a little bit of advancement on production. There might be a little bit of reduction in cost, but we're not going to get back to where we are today, which is that 40% incentive for the production values we have today to go solar. This is the best time in the world right now that we've seen to go solar on a commercial entity. And certainly, was for the residential side too. So hopefully that answered the question. And if there's any other specifics, I'm happy to answer that too, Sean.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you. And thanks for being here.
Well, just kind of as kind of last thing here, we have energy consultants ready at any point in time if you want to have a conversation. There's no commitment, there's no cost. If you want to reach out either directly to Sugar Hollow or through Mountain BizWorks, feel free to reach out. We will get an energy consultant in touch with you the same day to start walking through a project with you, see if it's viable, see if it makes sense, see if safe harboring is a good idea for you, and help you get to that decision. And if not, that's okay. We're here. We're going to be here for a long time. And if you change your mind down the road and want to look at solar in a year or 2 years, we'd be happy to talk with you then as well. But we certainly appreciate y'all being on the call. And feel free to share this information when you get this recording. Share with other people that might have wanted to be on this call but couldn't make it, or that you think might want to understand this information a little bit better. We're happy to answer any questions for them as well. And Eric and to the team on BizWorks, thanks for putting this together. Certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you being here and explaining all of that. That was very, very informative. Certainly not simple, but hopefully we've all got a better understanding. I think everyone on the call should have my email. I sent you all something yesterday. Scott, if you want to put your info in the chat, folks want it, please feel free to do that. I can also connect folks with Scott in the future if needed. But yeah, if we don't have any other questions, we can go ahead and hop off. Hope this was helpful for you all, and please don't hesitate to reach out in the future if we can help in any way. So hope you all have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you both.